Hey there, everybody. This is Bro here. We're going to do a story time today. I don't know how YouTube does these, but I just wanted to do it. Screw it. And if this video gets taken down or something, this video will get taken down. But I like reading with people, and I want people to get into comics. So today we're going to read a comic. Um, this comic is called Superman: Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. Um, I haven't read. This is the 2020 reprint. Um, Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to read all that. Basically, this was the last issue of pre-crisis Superman before like crisis really like kicked in and just rebooted everything. So this is the swan song of Superman. This was written by Alan Moore, and then it was drawn by Kurt Swan and George Perez, which are big names. George Perez did Teen Titans, and Kurt Swan did Superman. Like he was the Superman guy. And you got to realize, like, when we look at this goofy era of Superman, this was for a lot of people the definitive era of Superman. And for a lot of Superman mythology, this was the era of Superman mythology. So when we look at this story by Alan Moore, who is an acclaimed writer, wrote Watchmen, we're going to look at it and we're going to see we're just going to see that what he saw in Superman. My favorite Superman story, at least by Alan Moore, is For the Man Who Has Everything. But I think this one, and to restate the title, it's Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. Um, Basically, we're this is more comprehensive. Whereas For the Man Who Has Everything is much more personal and speaks to different appeals about Superman as a character in the psychology. This one is much more grand in terms of discussing the ideas of what the Silver Age was and what tones are and what going out of this era into darker eras, what that means for a character like Superman. And it's scary. And we'll see what happens as we read this. Um, this is meant to be, in a way, a final story of it all. I will read this part. This part's somewhat important. This is an imaginary story which may never happen, but then again may, about a perfect man who came from the sky and did only good. It tells of his twilight, when the great battles were over and the great miracles long since performed, of how his enemies conspired against him, and of that final war in the snow blind wastes beneath the northern lights, of the women he loved and of the choice he made between them, of how he broke his most sacred oath, and how finally all things he had were taken from him, save for one. It ends with a wink. It begins in a quiet Midwestern town, one summer afternoon in the quiet Midwestern future. Away in the big city, people still sometimes glance up hopefully from the sidewalks, glimpsing a distant speck in the sky. But no, it's only a bird, only a plane. Superman died 10 years ago. This is an imaginary story. Dot dot dot. Aren't they all? Well, that imaginary story thing is meant to say this is an Elseworlds and is not canon. But that's not really important. And I think that's why they say, aren't they all? Because a story is a story and it's as real as you want it to be. Okay, so now we go into Elliot, the residence of the Elliot family. Yes, excuse me, Miss Lois Lane. No, it's Mrs. Lois Elliot now. Anyway, come in. You must be Tim Crane from The Planet. That's right. Is it still convenient to do the interview with you for our Superman Memorial Edition? Sure. My husband's out at work and the baby's asleep, so we won't be disturbed. Will this room be okay? Fine. Let me just set up my recorder. Okay, testing. August 16th, 1997. Tim Crane interviewing Lois Elliott for the Daily Planet lead feature. Title: The Last Days of Superman. Um, that's an interesting little bowl thing they got there. Reminds me of the bubble that will be later on in the story. We'll see what happens. There, I think that should be okay. I feel kind of nervous interviewing you, Mrs. Elliot. You're sort of a legend around the Daily Planet. I'm probably doing this all wrong. You're doing fine. And it's Lois. Lois, right. Well, I suppose I should start by asking about the years leading up to Superman's disappearance and presumed death. Were those happy times? Happy? I don't know. They were a mixture of most things, like most times, but at least they were quiet. There's the baby right there. There's a future baby. Lois Lane is a mother. Luthor seemed to be lying low, and 2 years earlier, Brainiac's last organic metal body had been pounded into a state beyond repair. As I recall, Superman later recovered every fragment except the creature's head. The Parasite and Terra Man had destroyed each other in a lethal clash of egos, and it seemed like there was nobody left to fight. Mostly, Superman worked in space, doing research for the government. It was while he was still out in space returning from such a mission that we got our first taste of the carnage that was to follow. Great Scott! What's happening here? Superman, thank heavens you're back. Yeah, I tried using my signal watch earlier, but I guess you were out of range. Okay, so I'm also going to assume people don't know Superman comics. I'm assuming you're going into this with no Superman knowledge. Obviously you should know a little bit, like Lois Lane is a reporter at the Daily Planet who flirts with another reporter, Clark Kent. Clark Kent is Superman secretly, and Lois is often saved by Superman. The guy with the orange hair is Jimmy Olsen, who is often a photographer for the Daily Planet, and he is Superman's best pal. And he has a signal watch that allows Superman to just be alerted, and Superman shows up anytime Jimmy's in trouble. Jimmy would have his own comic and his own line of adventures, and a lot of them would feature him pressing the button to have Superman save him. This being said, I think because this is pre-crisis, there are differences. Like, first of all, the Daily Planet, by this point in time, right before the reboot, Clark Kent was a news reporter. They're news reporters. They were televised. They were on television. When the reboot happened with John Byrne brought it back to, they're just reporters now, or they're journalists. They're not on TV. Clark Kent is on TV in this comic. Anyways, we continue on. But this destruction, what caused it? Was it a bomb, or worse than a bomb, Superman? It was Bizarro. Bizarro did this. Bizarro? He was completely berserk, smashing things, hurting people, pushing over buildings. It was horrible. He kept laughing. About 20 minutes ago, he retreated into that department store and hasn't come out since. Okay, I'm here to handle it. I'm here now. I'll handle it. Bizarro. Incredible. I'm pretty sure this shot right here is echoed later. I'm going to have to pay attention to this, where he's walking out in that sort of way, as if I'm going to take care of everything. I'm Superman. That's my job. This is the first instance we will see that recurs as it goes on of the Silver Age was sort of fun. The Silver Age was harmless almost. There are some degrees of horror to it, but this comic is intentionally heightening these to actual moments of darkness and depravity or what have you. Bizarro's actually hurting people in this comic, which is even Superman's like, that's not Bizarro. Bizarro's way wackier than that. Bizarro's silly. Bizarro's just like, oh, me am dumb Superman. Lol. Okay. Bizarro, come on out and show yourself. I want an explanation for this. Ha, that easy. It am part of genius Bizarro's self-improvement plan. See, Bizarro? See, me suddenly realize that me am not perfect imperfect duplicate. Maybe me not trying hard enough. Example, when your planet Krypton blow up by accident, you am coming to baby as Earth. So me decide to blow up whole Bizarro world on purpose and come to Earth as adult. Bizarro world blown up? That right, haha, pretty imperfect, huh? Yeah, see, this is so now Bizarro. Now, the gimmick to Bizarro, and this is going to sound really silly, is he does the opposite of whatever Superman does. And when I say opposite, I don't mean like the antithetical, like the moral difference. I mean like he wears his S backwards. So this one is sort of like taking it to another level where he destroys the entire Bizarro world. Yes, there's an entire Bizarro world full of Bizarro characters. And Bizarro destroyed it for no reason. Bizarro, what's happened to you? I can't believe you really destroyed your homeworld. Ha, that am only beginning. Next, me realize that Superman never kill, so me kill lots of people. Them very grateful. Scream with happiness. See, also when Bizarro talks, sometimes Bizarro says backwards words. So when he says they're very grateful, they were not grateful. And when he says they scream with happiness, it was not happiness. It was the opposite of happiness. Killed people. Oh, merciful Rao. But then me finally understand what me need to be perfect imperfect duplicate. It am little blue kryptonite meteor that me carry in lead case for good luck. Um, See, you am alive, Superman, and if me am perfect imperfect duplicate, then me have to be, and he dies here. The blue kryptonite kills him. Um, I don't think the blue kryptonite kills Superman. I think later on we see gold kryptonite. Gold kryptonite doesn't do that actually. Gold kryptonite, we'll save that for later. Anyways, the blue kryptonite kills him here. This is the first sign that there's something wrong. This is the first sign that like, hey, things are not normal. This and Superman says it didn't make sense at all, even by Bizarro standards. Bizarro went on this normal Silver Age framework of I do something silly, and now there is sort of deeper psychology going on of like trauma and like I'm going to kill people. This is a different kind of story than the normal Silver Age stuff. People didn't die in the Silver Age really. They did near the end once it starts leading into the Bronze Age, but like Bizarro is a really clear example of what the Silver Age was as a concept. After years of harmless stupidity, that strange backwards creature had suddenly launched himself on a rampage of genocide, homicide, and finally suicide. Still, after what came next, Bizarro's death seemed trivial. You're talking about the unmasking. Yes, I'm talking about the unmasking. Delivery for Mr. Kent. Okay, so this they immediately go into Clark Kent is Superman, and they also like immediately say Clark Kent is Superman. They try to cut this immediately in this story. I'm Clark Kent. What is it? Two parcels delivered outside just now. The big one's real heavy. Clark, we're on the air in 2 minutes. Oh, this won't take a second, Lana. I'll just open the little one and, that's odd. What is it? Okay, so Lana is Lana Lang, by the way. Lana in other continuities and just in general is Clark Kent's old childhood friend from Smallville. And obviously now she's part of the planet here. I'm not too familiar with his stint as a news reporter. I just know that it happened around this. Like I knew that it happened once it goes into this age. A lot of Superman action figures. Oh, I've seen those around. They're great. Have you seen how they work? You just press their legs together and then it blows the desk up. Clark, it's moving. They're all moving. Look out. Oh God. Oh my God. Clark, get down. You're in their line of fire. And then Clark gets blasted here. And if he was a normal man, he'd be dead. They're all turning on Clark. They're slicing him up. You have to help him. Lana, it's too late. We can't save him. He's beyond help. Oh, Clark, it was you all these years. It was you all this time. Ha ha, that's right, Miss Lang. It was him all the time. He just combed his hair and stuck on a pair of glasses. Ha ha, what a great gag. Come on, we've toyed with him long enough. Clark, Superman, those voices. Also, it should be known here that Lana Lang and Lois Lane are sort of the Superman, it's the love triangle where it goes from childhood friend to co-worker. And you know what I mean? Those sort of things balance with each other. Um, Yes, I recognize him. The toy man and the prankster. Okay, how did you know that I was Clark Kent? Ha, what a moron. What an imbecile. Why don't you go look in the big box and find out? And no picking, it's lead lined. Everybody stand back. If it's a bomb, I'll contain the explosion. All right, I'm opening now. Shh. Oh God, it's Pete, isn't it? It's Pete Ross, and he's dead. So they killed Pete Ross. Pete Ross is also a childhood friend of Clark Kent from Smallville. Right. But not before we dragged your secret identity out of him with a little boffo brainwashing. We'd planned to work through your friends starting with the furthest away, but we hit pay dirt first time. Prankster, toy man, let me ask you one question. Do you know what radio waves look like? Huh? No. Why? It's because Superman can see radio waves. So Superman immediately knows the location of the prankster and the toy man. So killing Pete Ross is a line too far. Superman doesn't fuck with it. Superman's immediately going to these people. And we now see another instance of goofy characters. These are Toyman and the Prankster, very ridiculous villains, doing something very disturbing, doing something, killing a permanent character, killing Pete Ross, a beloved character. You may not know him. In Man of Steel, he's the guy that runs the IHOP. Um, it's just one of those things. They gave in almost immediately, but didn't seem to be able to tell him why they suddenly decided to start murdering his friends. When he asked, they just looked dazed and confused. And of course, putting them behind bars didn't mend the senseless damage they caused. Pete Ross was still dead, and so was Clark Kent. Once publicly revealed, his secret identity was useless, so he dropped it. I remember after Pete's funeral, he talked to us all about his fears, his worries. So this is one of those things Moore does. Moore tries to install anxieties into Superman. Um, I have bad feelings about this. Bizarro, the prankster, the toy man, they were all just nuisances before. What turned them into killers? All these years, my greatest nightmare has been someone would strike at me through my friends. Now it's coming true. Listen, Bizarro's dead. The others are behind bars. What's there to worry about? I I don't know. It isn't rational. It's just, well, if the nuisances from my past are coming back as killers, what happens when the killers come back? And the killers would be referring to someone like Brainiac, for instance. Um, he didn't have to mention any names, but we all knew who he was talking about, the big guns, Luthor, Brainiac. What if they came back more vicious than ever? I thought Brainiac had been destroyed. So did we. But as we found out later, other people hadn't given up so easily. Aha! I knew it. I knew you had to be here someplace. Aha! I feel something. Just a moment. There you are. So this is a Kurt Swan Luthor. This is very iconic. Luthor and Brainiac are also an iconic team together because they're both really, really smart. And they're also really evil. And they're evil in different ways because, like, Lex Luthor is very uniquely human, and Brainiac is very uniquely alien computer. Um, to be frank, I've seen you looking better. Not that I'm complaining. I've always wanted to open you up and study that alien technology. Now that you're dead, I'm saved the embarrassment of asking. And besides, I think you'd have wanted it this way. Brainiac is still alive in the thing. This is one of the most horrifying things about the comic, by the way. I think it's really cool. This is a really cool moment. I mean, back when you were still green with a head full of light bulbs, we were always such great buddies. Remember the Brainiac Luthor team? We were and then Brainiac starts to take over Luthor. Brainiac, stop this. I didn't know you were alive. Brainiac, I'm warning you. No, no, no. Ah, and then he's in great pain here. Greetings, Lex Luthor. Your mind, your body, and vocal cords all now belong to me. I welcome you to the new Luthor Brainiac team. And this is horrifying. Basically, Brainiac has just taken over an entire human body. Um, and this is really, there's only one other moment we see of Luthor later, and it's not pretty. Um, or like you'll see Luthor as Brainiac throughout, but this is for all intents and purposes Brainiac wearing a Luthor skin suit now. Um, and it's just scary that they to make one character more menacing. They literally just murder one of the most important Superman villains of the canon. By human standards, your brain is superb. It's stored data massively useful. The Kryptonian has interrupted my programs and caused me indignity. I shall tolerate him no longer. Now, raise my faceplate to your head. There. My ship was destroyed by the Superman. Our first priority is to construct a replacement. The materials will only be found in populated areas. Take one step forward. I feel you resisting me. It is useless. I repeat myself. Take one step forward. Very good. Now another step. And another. And another. Naturally, we weren't aware of Brainiac's return until later. Over in Metropolis, however, we had our own problems. I remember it was a couple of days after Pete's funeral, the day when Superman lost a planet for the second time in his life. We were working in the office, the air conditioning was on the fritz, and the sidewalks outside were hot, thronging with people. According to later reports, certain members of the crowd suddenly looked up suddenly stopped dead and looked upwards. It was as if some unseen communication had passed between them. This is very interesting. Hey, honey, you look hot and bothered. Could you use a date? Come on, what's to lose? For $20, I could break your heart. I doubt it. And then I think these are all Mentalos. These are all Mentalos. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, by the time we heard the screams of the street, the nightmare was already underway. There must have been hundreds of them. And they all wanted one thing in. Great Caesar's ghost, what's happening? Chief, the building. It's under attack. We're being boarded by Metalos. Metallo is just famous for having kryptonite in his chest. That's literally the gimmick. That's the gimmick. That's the only gimmick. Is in his chest he's got different things for his heart. Um there's too many of them, Jimmy. Use the watch. I am, you just can't hear it. Nobody can. Except him. And then Superman hears it like a dog whistle. Out of my way, kid. It's the woman I want to kill the most. The alien loving tramp. Let me go. Let me go. And then Lois starts to fall. And this is an interesting moment by Moore. Moore says, what happened next had all the familiarity of a recurring dream. I was falling, and a violet comet was falling alongside me. I'm sure this has happened many times. The reds and blues ran together, you see, so that's how he looked when he flew. A violet comet. And then we sort of see the tail dive through, and then we see the dynamic action of it. I think these are really cool panels. Hold on, Lois. I don't know how Metallo converted so many humans into creatures like himself, but there's a fast way of containing them. Whatever you say. What are you doing? Rub any iron rod in the same direction for long enough and you'll align the magnetic poles of the particles, turning it into a magnet. See, this is one of those ridiculous Superman powers that is fake informed by science. As if he solves that. It's just so silly, but that is typically how he would solve a Silver Age problem. That's what he would do, or in this case, a super magnet. He lifted the magnetized globe into the sky above the Galaxy building. I remember hoping he hadn't made it strong enough to lift the cars from the street below. But I needn't have worried. He got everything just right, as always. I think it's interesting here that, and I don't know their history. I would need to look at Swan and Perez's work, and I would also need to look at DC's work in general. I think it's interesting that these use the Kirby crackle here. The Kirby crackle is these dots. It's this sort of thing here that Jack Kirby was famous for. And Jack Kirby did work on Superman before, and he did work on all this stuff, and he did before this stuff. So it's not like they're ripping him off or anything. They may be paying homage, or it may be a standard effect by this time. I don't know. I just think it's interesting to say that, to recognize it. He got everything right, just as always. When he gathered up all the Metallos, along with most other metal from the planet offices, he flew the paralyzed cyborgs to the St. Teresa prison complex. I gather most of them were successfully rehumanized. When he returned, he looked as devastated as the planet offices. He insisted on taking all of his closest friends to the Fortress of Solitude, where he could defend them if the situation could worsen. He fetched Lana, Perry White's wife, Alice. Alice is Perry White's wife. Alice and Perry were not quite getting on, and she was very confused and scared. I guess we were all tense. Everything had such an air of finality. Eventually, we were all at the fortress. I hadn't been there for a while, but it was still the same. Big, remote, lonely. It wasn't called the Fortress of Solitude for nothing. Shortly, another old friend joined us. Crypto had been roaming the stars for years, but now he'd return. Why? Unless he'd sensed what the rest of us had. Despite our welcoming hugs, his arrival struck an ominous tone. So Crypto's coming back to sort of, help his master here. Crypto is another famous Silver Age concept. I like Crypto a lot. Crypto is, I think, one of the coolest Super or Silver Age comments. I think we'd all got out of the city just in time. Where is he? Why doesn't that caped coward come out and die like a man? Subject identified. Reference Kryptonite Man. We were not alone in our decision to come here. Superman has apparently fled to the Arctic Circle. The Kryptonite Man, while intellectually limited, provides an ideal assassination weapon. This remodeled ship, though inferior to my original sentient craft, will provide speedier transport to the north than whatever vehicle he arrived in. I propose we take him with us. You have no objections? And of course, Luthor has no objections. He's sweating. He's trying to fight this thing, taking him over, and he cannot do it. Very good. Then we shall proceed. Even though it was deathly silent in the fortress at the top of the world, if you listened hard, you could almost hear the vultures gathering. He prepared a meal for us, and then it was time for bed. He showed us all to the... Oh, goodness. I pressed spacebar guest quarters, and he looked sad as he led Perry and Alice to separate rooms. So there's sort of a, I think this is interesting. I never noticed this before, but it sort of talks about another sort of evolution in culture and storytelling for the Silver Age, which is Perry and Alice having marital problems. These marital problems are not the sort of thing you would see in the Silver Age typically. Typically, there would be a lot of possible random drama, but like it would very stick to conservative values and traditional concepts. So now that we're sort of going into this new era, in case you haven't realized, this was happening right when they were about to reboot and clean house and sort of redo Superman as a cultural storytelling character. So this comic is recognizing, especially Alan Moore, who helped spearhead a lot of these storytelling decisions at large for superhero comics, a more mature, more in-depth concept of characters, more psychological, more, with more trauma, more morality decisions, a lot more complexity. And what's interesting here is what Moore is saying a lot of times here is that there's a problem between the Silver Age Superman and this coming moral complexity. And this may be why it's the swan song, why it's the final, quote unquote, final Superman story, is because these two worlds, these two tones don't go together. These two storytelling methods of Superman always doing what's right no matter what, and go home and eat your vegetables and support your troops, etc., all these standard boilerplate things that you would see in the Silver Age and even the Golden Age. These things are going to not be what storytelling is moving forward. I couldn't sleep, so I knocked on the door of Lana's room, which was next to mine. Over the years, we'd been rivals, uneasy friends, and finally, strangers. That night, none of it mattered. We both loved him. We were both scared that he was going to die. And after we'd put that into words, we both cried and held each other till we fell asleep. As for Superman, well, I guess he must have felt restless too, but in a different way. I mean, we all had trouble getting to sleep, but he didn't need to sleep at all. I'm glad you came back, Crypto. You're a piece of my life. You know that? Oh, I see his little dog. See, what I like about Superman is like, and people say this in different ways, is Superman is literally just like a normal guy who does his best and like does the right thing or tries to do the right thing whenever he can. But a lot of his life is just like extracted to like a crazy degree. So he lives a normal life as Clark Kent, but he's got a dog that can fly and do all these crazy things. And it's still just a dog. To him, it's his dog. It's the same human element. He has the same relationship. And, to you, if you have a dog, maybe he's your dog is your super dog. Maybe to you, your dog is capable of flying or heat vision, or being the most perfect dog of all time. That's how we see our relationships. And we can also see these things with like Superman in terms of like being a father figure or being a moral figure. um I'm glad you came back to life, Crypto, or you came back, Crypto. You're a piece of my life, you know that. And he barks. I don't know, I feel as if all the pieces of my life are finally coming together. You know what I mean. Animals get those feelings too when they know. What's the matter? Is something. And then like a big old thing, the Legion. Greetings from the 30th century, Superman. We hope you don't mind us dropping in like this. Okay. This is going to be another important, like, obviously this is a really good one to do, so we can just go through all the different sort of concepts for the lore, and I don't have to like dive into it too much. This is the Legion of Superheroes. The Legion of Superheroes is basically a superhero team of teens. I don't think they're all necessarily teens, but I think they are teens from the future. And it's important that they are teens in the concept that these would tag along with Superboy, and Superboy was just Superman as a teen. Superboy is not like a kid version of Superman, or like a child Superman. I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. If there was a Batboy, most people would conceptualize it as Batman having a son, and then the boy becomes Batboy. Superboy is literally just a young Superman. It is like high school Superman, Superman in Smallville. Um, so this Legion of Superheroes, they would pop in from the future and be like, "Hey, Superboy, you're in the future. You become Superman's greatest hero of all time. You want to hang out with us in the future or something?" And all these characters would have different superpowers. There'd be Saturn Girl, there'd be Matter Eater Lad. They would have a lot of ridiculous powers. Notable one there, that green one is a Brainiac. In the future, there's a Brainiac who reached a certain level of intelligence to where it's like, oh, I should help people. So now this young Brainiac is teamed up with everybody else. So it's all these different things. It's like, but thought you might appreciate the sight of a few friendly faces. And then there's Kara, Zor-El, Supergirl. Hello, Cal. I was visiting the Legion in the 30th century when they announced they were coming back to see you here in my future. Well, haven't you got a hug for your cousin? Of course, it's just such a surprise. It must be. I'm a grown up superwoman in this time zone. Is it cheating if you tell me whether I grew up to be pretty? You grew up to be beautiful, Kara. Come on, let's go this way where the light's better. Now, I'm trying to remember. I don't know. I'm gonna get crucified because I'm not gonna know this. Um, I'm not gonna remember it. I'm not gonna remember right. Supergirl ends up dying. Supergirl ends up dying in Crisis. Clearly this thing is meant to be like, oh, Supergirl's dead. Um, and he's sort of like just coming over the fact that this is Supergirl from the past. I don't know if this is referencing Crisis Supergirl, but I think it is. So I don't know if this is necessarily after that, or I don't know necessarily how this functions, but I think in terms of this story, Supergirl's dead. Hello, Crypto. Hello, boy. I hope you and Streaky aren't still scrapping all the time. Streaky is Supergirl's pet, and it's a cat. It's an orange cat that has superpowers. Superman, could I have a word? Yes, yes, of course, Brainiac. Superman, we wanted to present you with this on behalf of Brainiac. What's the meaning of this? You know Supergirl is dead in this era. You're from the future. It's history to you. See, now he's pissed. Because, yeah, Supergirl's dead. I'm sorry, she insisted on coming. I realize how distressing this must be. I doubt it. You talk calmly to us, all the while knowing our death dates as ancient history. How can you do it? Superman, you are being unfair. In your past, as Superboy, you have seen some of our future. Would you tell us if you knew of some of unavoidable doom awaiting us? No, no, you're right. Forgive me, Brainiac. I'm just under a moment of pressure. Or I'm just under pressure at the moment, of course. Now, let me give you this on behalf of the Legion. It's the reason we came to this period. Well, thank you, but why did you choose this particular date to present it to me? Well, because our histories mark this day as a special time in your life. Therefore, we came here to meet with you again and salute you and pay your last respects. Is that it? That's what Superman says. Superman, at this point in time, is starting to become aware that this is probably the end. This is the end of things. And he's starting to come to terms with that he might die. Cousin, I just thought of something. As the Supergirl of this era, am I visiting away another time period or something? Because I thought you couldn't materialize in an era where you already existed. Uh, yes. Yes, you're right. And then there's like a thing right here. Right now, Supergirl. Supergirl is in the past. Perhaps we'd best return you to our 30th century to prevent any problems should this era's Supergirl return unexpectedly. Oh well, I guess so. Give me my regards when I return from the past. Goodbye, Superman. We always miss you. Brainiac, can we go? My eyes are watering. Must be some 20th century virus. So they're all crying because they're basically saying goodbye to Superman. They know Superman's gonna die. Superman started to know he's gonna die, and they're saying goodbye to him. He never told me what exactly that happened that night before the siege began, but as soon as I saw him the next morning, I knew something had upset him. He looked funny. This image seems to resemble the earlier one regarding that right there. I guess it's that where it's like they mirror each other. I could swear there was another one though. There's a lot of these things. He looked as if he'd been crying, and then this is where we see the more human element of Superman. Superman is crying, and this is where again more starts to. If you make Superman human emotionally, then you don't need to have him weak to bullets. You don't need to make kryptonite to make people relate to him. Well, all that you need to relate to him is this panel right here, where he's crying and his dog is watching him helpless. Because we've all been there. And then we go here. Goodbye, Superman. We'll miss you. And then we see everybody right there. This is where it starts to get sad. More coffee, Tim. Interviews always make me so dry with what me doing all the talking. He must be very bored. Oh no. No, it's just what the planet's memorial edition needs. I'm just checking where we'd got to. Superman's old enemies had started returning with a vengeance and he'd taken everyone to his fortress for safety. That's right. Me, Lana, Jimmy, Perry, and Alice White, all his friends, we were all. Say, is that coffee I smell brewing through here? Best darn nose for coffee in the whole of Pittsdale. They live in Pittsdale. You'll have to fix it yourself, honey. I'm busy being a celebrity. Tim, this is my husband, Jordan. Jordy, this is Tim Crane from the planet. So, I'm not going to say much. In case you couldn't tell, his name is Jordan Elliott. Oh, hi. I hope you don't mind me interviewing your wife about her ex? Nah, I can live with it. He weren't nothing special. Us ordinary working slobs, son. We're the real heroes. Now, Jordy, don't you get started in on that. You just fix your coffee, then go on and check that Jonathan's still asleep. Where had I got to, Tim? I think it's interesting. Lois married a working man. This must be a virtue, or this might be a virtuous man, or at the very least, he's just proud to be blue collar. You were all up in the Arctic with Superman. That's right. We stood on a balcony and watched as he destroyed the Golden Key. I think that's when we first realized that he was preparing for a siege, the siege of the Fortress of Solitude, Superman's last stand. So the Golden Key was like this really, really big key. It looks like that. It's a really big key that opens the Fortress of Solitude. And the reason why it's really big is because the only person that could lift it's probably Superman. Very complicated stuff. All that day in the fortress, Perry and Alice kept bickering. Everybody was so tense. We were scared. We knew that something was bearing down on us, but we didn't know what. And if we had known, we wouldn't have felt any better. Assessment. The Kryptonian has gone to ground. I must consider our next move. What's to consider? I want my hands around his throat. I want to watch him turn green and die. You will do as I command, Kryptonite Man. With Luthor's mind at my disposal, my intellect is supreme. I shall devise a plan covering all eventualities. All eventualities, Brainiac. Even that one. Alert. Probability of attack 74.02%, 0.012%. Hold your fire, Luthor. We come as allies to join you in the assured and predestined slaughter of Superman. Have you forgotten the future, Luthor? Don't you remember the legion of supervillains? As I said earlier, it's the same thing. Luthor in pre-crisis times was also part of Smallville, so there was a lot of teenage drama, and they would do shit like this. I'm scanning Luthor's mind. It's being dominated by something cold, emotionless. On his head, is that some sort of helmet, or Lex Luthor is now merely the vessel of Brainiac? Query: what manner of beings are you? We are Saturn woman, not Saturn. Yeah, we're good. Saturn woman, lightning lord, and cosmic king from the 30th century. According to legend, during these days, Superman met his greatest foe in battle and was no more. Certain of victory, we've come to participate. His greatest foe, of course. I shrunk Kandor. I was always his greatest foe. Query: why should I permit you to share my victory? Because we're from the future. We know things. For example, it's said that during Superman's last days, all of Earth's champions flocked to help him. That is logical. This world's other superhumans are certain to interfere. I shall erect an impenetrable force screen immediately. For resisting my will, for destroying my body, for these affronts shall the Kryptonian now know the revenge of Brainiac, and none shall help him. This is a very haunting image. I think these are really cool panels here. When the Fortress's sensors registered Brainiac's force screen, we knew it had begun. The screen took the form of a giant bubble, more than 2 miles across. Nothing could get in, nothing could get out. Around noon, the villains began firing on the fortress using weapons from Brainiac's ship. Superman destroyed most of the devices from long range using heat vision, but the force screen generator was too well shielded. During the attempt, he took Krypto and attempted a frontal assault, but they were driven back by Kryptonite Man. His powers seemed to have increased tenfold. They couldn't even get near him. With twilight, other heroes began arriving outside the barrier. Those that were his friends, those that were almost his rivals, those that might have been his lovers. It didn't matter. None of them could penetrate it. So then we've got sort of the JSA Justice League sort of thing of like all the different heroes coming in to help. Um, Technically, it's the JLA, not the JSA by this point. But that being said, like we see Shazam, we see Batman. I like how Batman and Robin are just hitting it with sticks as if they can do anything. If these guys can't, if Wonder Woman can't do anything, I think you guys are just fucking wasting your time. I think it's funny though. It's cute. As night fell, it seemed that a standoff had been declared, and there was a lull in the battle. We all knew it wouldn't last long. We figured we had at least until morning, so we decided to get some sleep, or at least some of us did. Perry, are you awake? I wondered if we could talk for a while. Well, sure, come in. I could use some conversation myself. Beat sitting around here thinking about doom and divorce. I'm sorry. Being cooped up here must be a strain for you and Alice. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. We've both got good reason to be at loggerheads, but, well, sitting here with death waiting outside makes me see things from a different perspective somehow. Me too. You? Yes, me. Perry, I'm scared. I think I'm gonna die. And there's so much in life I have to get straight. Like me and Lois. Like me and Lana. See, Superman's got a lot of girl problems. You see, I've messed up both of their lives, haven't I? They've wasted their love on me. Well, I couldn't let myself love either of them the way they deserved. I wish I'd explained. I wish I hadn't been such a coward. Why is it that the noblest people are the ones most troubled by conscience? I don't know. That's Lois talking in the blue bubble or in the blue box. And he's sort of wondering, like, why. Words cannot describe how many issues of Lois Lane versus Lana Lang trying to compete for Superman's love and attention during the Silver Age era. There were a lot of them. So this is sort of just a commentary on like Superman's failure as a person to address those. Um, But Superman and Perry weren't the only ones who couldn't sleep that night. Lana, what are you doing out here? Well, if that flask in your hand thing is what I think it is, I'm doing the same thing as you. I'm sick of sitting around. I want to help him. That's the Elastic Lad serum, isn't it? This is where they become superheroes. Yes, I knew he kept a sample of it in his trophy room annex, so I came to find it. All these years, they've called me Superman's friend. I figure here's where I start paying for the privilege. How about you? I had the same idea. I remember years ago, there were times we gained superpowers temporarily. I remember there was this lake that Lois and I bathed in. Magic lake water, probably unidentified radiation source. It's got it in quotes. The magic is not magic; it's radiation. But these are Silver Age costumes for these supporting characters. Hey, look, it's a case of our souvenir costumes. Then we're in luck. Turn your back, Red, while I take a quick dip. Oh, the feeling. I remember now. My skin tingling as it gets harder. My senses expanding. X-ray vision. Microscopic vision. Yeah, she's in radiation pool. Super hearing. You see, back when I was Superboy, Lana was the only girl I loved. She still represents Smallville to me, that part of my life, and because of that I could never cast her aside. But since I've grown and become a man, there's only ever been one woman for me. Lois, beautiful Lois. I love her, Perry. Dear God, I love her so much. But I can't tell her without hurting Lana. I'd never hurt Lana. So I just walk around with this secret, this weight in my heart, and I'll carry it with me to my grave. And neither of them will know. There, are you ready, Lana? Lana, is anything wrong? Wrong? No, no, why should anything be wrong? I'm ready now. Let's get out there. Wreck that four screen and get him out of this mess. We're only second stringers, Jimmy, but we'll show them. Nobody loved him better than us. Nobody. This is Things are going to start to get heavy in a bit. Um, Having assumed that Kryptonite Man would keep Superman at a distance, what happened next took even Brainiac by surprise. Ow, he's attacking us, You'll what, you poisonous little crud? What are you going to do to someone who doesn't give a damn about Kryptonite? Brainiac, help me. Nobody's going to help you. Nobody's going to help any of you. Take out the generator, Jimmy, while I deal with their leader. Ugh. Foolish woman, my victory is predetermined. You serve only to hasten your doom. Luthor, why are you talking like that? And on your head, this is the moment where Luthor is still around. This is the last panel of Lex Luthor. Lana, bruh, Brainiac, he's got me. Kill me. Kill me, Lana. Please kill me. Luthor, be silent, I command you. Lex, Lana, do it now. Please do it now. Lana kills Lex Luthor here, which is sad. Very sad. She's killed the Luthor Brainiac thing. How can we stop her? I'm scanning her mind. She received her power from bathing in some kind of radioactive pool. Then it's easy. I just use my transmutation abilities to turn the radioactive traces in her tissue to normal body salts, and suddenly there's nothing holding her up. Taking a fall, my dear? Here, let me give you a helping hand. Oh no. Bzzzt. Lana! You murdering. They just killed Lana Lang. You murdering scum, you killed her. Well, you're too late. Your force field's wrecked. You're finished. Never. He's dead. But who? Who do you suppose? I am Brainiac, reducer of Kandor, his greatest foe. My victory is preordained. Do you think I would let the death of this body stand in its way? Oh, merciful creator. Luthor's nerves, his muscles are intact. I can manipulate them, at least for long enough to ensure Superman's destruction. Brainiac, something's wrong. If Olsen wrecked the generator, why hasn't the force screen collapsed? Analysis, you are correct. Earth's champions remain outside. Some unknown force maintains the shield. Perhaps it is destiny. In any eventuality, we must make use of it, while the fluke situation endures. Prepare for a nuclear strike. Our final assault begins. So now this is just a corpse. This is a corpse with a robot on it. The explosion, unbelievably, didn't bring down the whole fortress. It just punched an ugly, gaping hole in one side. But that was enough. We'd been breached. The sleeping quarters were shielded by meters of solid rock, but the shock wave was like the worst earthquake you could imagine. Alice, look out! Oh, oh! Harry, you, Alice, it doesn't matter. They're destroying the fortress, and I don't think we've got long left. I just want to tell you that I'm sorry and that I'll always love you. Perry, would you take me to my room perhaps? Perhaps we'll have to make perhaps we'll have time to make up for being so stupid. So they're going to I don't know if consummate, but they're going to make up. They're going to reconcile in these final moments. To secure the fortress, to plan our defense, time was needed. Time was one thing we needed. Time was one thing we didn't have. Where is he? Come out, Kryptonian. Your rat hole's been breached. You can't escape me now. And this is Crypto coming in. I'm almost glad I didn't manage to kill you when you were young. It makes this moment all the sweeter. Are you listening, Kryptonian? Can you hear your death bearing down on you? And fucking Crypto is pissed. Crypto is like a guard dog coming in. Well, I'm waiting for an what's and Crypto just comes in fucking pissed, like a good dog, good boy. And yeah, he's just fucking about to fucking rip. Yeah, he just fucking yeah. Crypto murdered Kryptonite Man, and because of that, spoiler alert: Crypto is also weak to Kryptonite. So unfortunately, Crypto passes away as well, and that's super sad. This is a very sad comic. In case you haven't realized by this point, uh, things are really really dark. All these positive, goofy things, right? I think this is an important concept to look at, and this is really depressing to look at, but I think this really drives the point home. Is the Silver Age super goofy, and as we're seeing with this Fallout, all the serious consequences for actions, complex moralities, we're seeing something really sort of horrifying. This is horror. This is scary. And it's definitely interesting in the context of later Superman stories. Like we look now at modern Superman stories or modern superhero stories in general and look at their tones, and they sort of try to strike a weird balance between the goofy and the horrifying. And it's those moments, it's this. This is really what I think Moore is commenting on right here. Whereas, like, you really can't have it both ways. When you have it both ways, you have a monster of a problem. At least that's what this story is telling me. Um, I was with Superman when he heard his pet's death howl, but we couldn't do anything. Pete, Ross, Lana, Jimmy, now Crypto was gone. It's sad. Very sad stuff. We had our own problems. Superman, what's happening? Where are Lana and the others? I don't know. Perry and Alice aren't hurt, but I can't see Lana or Jimmy anywhere. Maybe they fled. And we start seeing a bunch of the different aspects of his life. Titano's right here, this giant gorilla, another famous Superman villain, and Lori Lamaris is a mermaid that also Superman fell in love with. It's another love person for Superman. Or maybe they're dead. Ah, ha ha ha. Want to buy yourself some time, Kryptonian? Why not throw me the woman so I can fry her the way I fried your other girlfriend? Lana? You hurt Lana? Oh, he's fucking pissed. He burned me. His mind, he isn't bluffing. He's prepared to kill. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea from our legends. I'd expect a quick victory, but this is dangerous. Let's get out of here. We know that Brainiac will win. There's no sense getting hurt in the process. By the time we'd followed them outside, their bubble was already vanishing back to the 30th century, and there was only one foe left to face. Or maybe two. Analysis, stiffening of limbs, difficulty in movement, assessment, onset of rigor mortis in host body, imminent. Oh God, look at it. And they're horrified at Luthor. But the villains from the future, they said you would meet your greatest foe in battle and be no more. Me, Brainiac, your greatest foe. I am predestined to destroy you. Lois, get back. He's falling. No, get up. Get up, Luthor. I will not be betrayed by your human weakness. Where is my Kryptonite Man? Why is my force screen still standing? I don't know. I don't care. I am coming for you, Kryptonian. My victory is inevitable. Superman, it's crawling off him. It's okay, Lois. I don't think he's in any condition to harm us. The disintegrating collection of plates and circuits crawled a couple of inches, propelled by sheer malice, and then stopped moving. Brainiac was dead. It was all over. except that it couldn't be. I think another important thing to note here is when we talk about this gradual change and these pre-crisis changes, this is Brainiac entered a really cool or weird phase when we got to this point in time. Again, I'm not 100% sure when it got near the end of pre-crisis and the Silver Age like this. But that being said, clearly this does not look like the green Brainiac. There was a Brainiac that was obviously the Green Man with the dots on his head. They redesigned him at some point to look more menacing, to look more robotic, to look more cold and calculated. And I think when Moore did this whole concept of the Luthor Brainiac team, the sort of cold, evil Brainiac here, I think he doubled down on that concept of Brainiac's redesign being horrifying. Except that it couldn't be. Lois, I don't like this. There's too many loose ends. Why should all my enemies attack me at once? Why is Brainiac's force field still keeping our friends out? And then there's the statuette. The Legion visited last night and gave it to me, almost as if they were giving me my own headstone as a gift. The whole 30th century seems certain I'm finished. He lapsed into silence while I studied the statuette, a golden figure of Superman holding something familiar. Everything was still. The keening Arctic wind was kept out by force screen. I know what this is. I won't say it yet. Actually, I will say it so people know. This is a Phantom Zone thing. The Phantom Zone is just like a dimension where Superman imprisons shit. Zod is famous for being in the Phantom Zone. And that's just the thing that beams people into the Phantom Zone. He stood like that for 4 or 5 minutes, silent and frowning, figuring something out. When he spoke ever so softly, it still made me jump. Of course. Bizarro, the Prankster, the Toy Man, Metallo, Brainiac, the Kryptonite Man, the Legion of Supervillains. There's only one name missing, isn't there? I know you're there, Mixie's Pitlick. Come out and show yourself. Ugh. Okay, we're not going to look at... Yeah, okay, he turns into that. Okay. We'll go here and I'll read it in a bit. Mixie's Pitlick is a fifth dimensional imp who can control all of reality. He can do anything he wants. He could make an elephant in the room. He could do anything. He's, by all intents and purposes, a god. A good example would be like Q from Star Trek or something like that, where he can just do anything. He's beyond this dimension. And I think one of the important things to note here is, number one, he looks menacing here, and he's going to look more menacing in a second. But this sort of thing is interesting. It's interesting that Moore posits that he is the greatest enemy of Superman, Mixie's Pitlick. And there's different ways to read that, I think. The first way is, and I think this is something that you see later with like Grant Morrison, where we explore the idea of the fifth dimensional imps being representatives of imagination or representatives of us or something like that. Where, like Batmite. Batmite is another fifth dimensional imp, and Batmite is a rabid fan of Batman. So this goes into different types of storytelling or different types of impressions of how we react to Superman. And we are gods compared to Superman because we exist in another dimension. We're not paper. We're not paper and pen. We are material. And we can make stories where Superman can do anything he wants. Superman can suck my dick, and he can't do anything about it because it's my story. So that's one aspect, I think, of the horror of Mixie's Pitlick, where Mixie's Pitlick is actually an invincible being, and he is actually a being that doesn't operate in the same sort of realm Superman does. And by that same token, that I can do anything, summon elephants, etc., that is also emblematic of the Silver Age, and possibly the most emblematic, because, like, again, Batmite and him, he is portrayed as a small little old man with a bowler hat who just floats around and does goofy cartoon stuff. So that is emblematic of the Silver Age and this sort of raw, goofy comedy. But now we're seeing it taken into a different turn where it's like, okay, so if we're taking Mxyzptlk seriously, we are now in a different zone of like, oh, this is terrifying. When the smoke finally cleared, he was just sitting there in the air. He looked different somehow. He didn't look funny anymore. And yeah, he doesn't look nearly as goofy. If you look at other images of Mxyzptlk is ridiculous. Like, you could just type in the name and you'll see from everywhere. You were guiding all this from behind the scenes, all this killing and destruction. Mxyzptlk, in Rao's name. Why? Rao is the god of one of the gods of Krypton that Superman worships, because Superman is religious in that sense. Don't be naive, Superman. I'm an immortal, like everyone in the fifth dimension. The big problem is with being immortal is filling your time. For example, I spent the first 2,000 years of my existence doing absolutely nothing. I didn't move, I didn't even breathe. Eventually, simple inertia became tiresome, so I spent the next 2,000 years being saintly and benign, doing only good deeds. When that novelty began to fade, I decided to try being mischievous. Now, 2,000 years later, I'm bored again. I need a change. Starting with your death, I shall spend the next 2 millennia being evil. After that, who knows? Perhaps I'll try being guilty for a while. And this is where we start to see where this sort of immortal, perfect being is beyond morality. He doesn't care about morality. He lives forever, and he doesn't think about right or wrong. He doesn't think about good or bad. He only exists to fulfill the whims of his imagination and fulfill the whims of him right now, so he's not bored. And this can also go into storytelling, where it's like, okay, we're writing so many comics on Superman for so many years, and we are trying to make it not boring. How do we make it not boring? And we had Superman just do good stuff, and now we're going to have Superman do goofy stuff, and now we're going to have Superman die. And that is pretty prescient, considering after this, especially after Crisis on Infinite Earths, after all that, and eventually Superman dies too, where we start to see death as a major consequence for all these characters and sort of a scarred morality. And I think this is important to say. I don't think more is I think it's obvious and goes without saying, more is not anti-complexity for characters. So when I'm saying this goofy stuff and like the heightening of it is horror, I'm not saying that Moore thinks all the time that superheroes should not have this moral thing. Obviously he wrote Watchmen, he wrote Miracle Man. He goes into serious conversations and investigations on this. I think number one, he's being cynical at how editorial and how fans perceive these long running characters and perhaps the point of these long running characters, right? Where these stories don't necessarily, there's a difference between a story being realistic and gritty and dark because the story needs to be that way, and it being that way to draw people in as a marketing gimmick. And for comics, I'm going to go ahead and tell you the latter is way more common, especially after the advent of Moore's influence on the genre. Did you honestly believe a fifth dimensional sorcerer would resemble a funny little man in a derby hat? Would you really like to see how I really look? Superman, he's changing. We'd better get inside. I can't describe what Mxyzptlk become. It had height, length, breadth, and a couple of other things. As we entered the fortress, I glanced back. It was following us. Looking at it made my head hurt. It makes my head hurt too. What the fuck? Why struggle? You know there's no escape. Today you meet your greatest foe and shall be no more. Why, the whole 30th century knows it. He shouldn't have mentioned the 30th century. That was his mistake. Reminded, I looked at the statuette in my hands. Lois, he's magical. I can't beat him. Run. I'll hold him off as long as possible. No, wait. This statue. Why did they give it to you? As a tribute. So they must have known how much it would disturb me. Exactly. So maybe they gave it to you for another reason. Maybe some kind of hint? Take another look at it, Superman. Look at what it's holding. He looked at the golden figure, at the golden device in his hands. His eyes narrowed ever so slightly. He knew his supreme hour. He knew what had to be done. This way. We can only get back to the chamber in time. The chamber, when we reached it, was eerie and unpleasant as I remembered. From a screen at one end, pale men with murderous eyes mouthed obscenities at us. Time was running out. This is like Zod people. I don't necessarily know if it is exactly Zod. There are different kinds of Kryptonian warlords that come back that Superman eventually gets rid of. It's not always Zod. I think it is Zod. And then suddenly it was all gone. Ah, there you are. Time to die, I think. That's right, Mixie's Pitlick. Time to die. And then we see this. He turned the Phantom Zone projector's single Cyclops eye, staring from between his hands, finger moving between its black button. Mixie's Pitlick had no means of escape except one: kill Tipsyism. Okay, so by the way, when he's being a goofy old man, if he ever says his name backwards, if Mixie's Pitlick ever says his name backwards, he has to go back to the fifth dimension. That's the rule. That's like the game he plays with Superman. So Superman has to trick him into saying his name backwards. Again, very, very stupid comic. Or a very stupid plot and character. But he's funny. I like him. I like Mixie's Pitlick. Shut the fuck up. With the utterance of his reverse name, the creature's magic returned him to the fifth dimension. While at the same time, the ray sent him into the Phantom Zone. So he's being split between two dimensions. That terrible scream is he, torn in half between dimensions. He panicked when he saw the ray and made a fatal error, just as I knew he would. I killed him, Lois. I intended to kill him. I just couldn't risk letting anything that powerful and malignant survive. So I made up my mind, and I did it. I broke my oath. I killed him. But you had to. You hadn't done anything wrong. I think this is one of those important moments where it's like, and we go into things like the Man of Steel neck snap, where Henry Cavill's Superman kills Zod, where it's like, okay, Superman can and probably morally should kill when it comes to a point where it's like, okay, yeah, reasonably speaking, I think the kill is justified. And a fifth dimensional creature capable of causing torment to everybody in existence, that deserves a quick mercy kill. But that being said, that even that complexity isn't the point of Superman, isn't really what Superman's about, and also isn't necessarily the most satisfying or complex story of like, yes, making Superman kill because he has to doesn't make Superman more interesting. It is a moral dilemma for Superman, but he will always do the right thing, and I guess that means killing. The real question is whether or not we should create a world, an environment, and a story where Superman has to kill. We are responsible for these things. And again, I'm not necessarily saying that those are bad stories, but oftentimes when it comes to editors and when it comes to standard stories, there's a lot of mistakes that happen. And a lot of them are just done for the sake of marketing and not for the sake of a good story. Yes, I have. Nobody has the right to kill. Not Mixie's Pitlick, not you, not Superman. Especially not Superman. And obviously he holds himself to a high ideal. He turned and walked away in complete silence. I ran after him, calling his name. He didn't reply. And by the time I realized where he was heading, it was too late. Gold kryptonite, sample storage chamber, keep out. As he walked into the blinding golden light, he turned and looked back over his shoulder. He smiled at me. I never saw Superman again. With Mixie's Pitlick's destruction, the force screen his magic had been maintaining vanished, and the heroes outside were free to enter. You probably read what they found. The wreckage in and around the fortress seemed to be strewn with bodies, those of his most bitter enemies and those of his most loyal friends. I remember the Batman describing it as something like walking amongst the fragments of a legend. Death and destruction were everywhere. Almost everywhere. Perry and Alice survived. They found me outside the locked gold kryptonite room chamber weeping. When Superwoman and Captain Marvel ripped the vault open, it was empty. He was gone. They discovered a hidden passageway leading out of the fortress It was finally concluded he'd walked out powerless into the sub zero wastes to freeze. They never found his body. More coffee, Tim? No, it's getting pretty late, and I think the interview's almost through. Tell me, Mrs. Elliot, what do you think of the rumors that Superman is still alive somewhere? Oh, I'm sure a lot of people would like to believe that, but as far as I'm concerned, Superman died in the Arctic. I was there. Of course. I'm sorry. If that last question was tactless, you just hear a lot of talk. I guess it's the same as with Jim Morrison or Bruce Lee, all those old rumors. Here's Johnny. What? Oh, Jonathan, you're awake. Have you got a kiss for mommy? Abba. Oh, well, listen, I thought I ought to be going. I'll send you a copy of the interview to check once I've transcribed it. Interesting that the baby's name is Jonathan. Makes one remember something like Jonathan Kent or something. Well, if you get time, I know what it's like. Give my love to the planet. I will. Thanks for everything, Mrs. Elliot. You too, Mr. Elliot. I'll be in touch. Bye, fella. Nice meeting you. Da. And there's a sort of image right here. Well, he's gone. I guess the media won't be bothering us for another 10 years now. Let's hope so. Down you go, Jonathan. You play for a while. So how was work? Great. Old Dan Hodge brought in some snapshots of his grandchildren. And we're working on this old 48 Buick at the moment, trying to get her working. She's beautiful. You really love it, don't you? Just going to work every day, taking out the garbage, changing Jonathan's diapers, all this normal stuff. Yep, can't beat it. Although maybe I could live without the diapers. You were pretty hard on Superman earlier. Superman? He was overrated, too wrapped up in himself. He thought the world couldn't get along without him. What's for dinner? And we see the baby crushing a coal like a diamond. Pizza. After that, if Jonathan's quiet, I thought maybe bed with a bottle of wine. And after that, I figure we just live happily ever after. Sound good to you? Lois, my love? What do you think? And obviously, it's sort of be like, Superman survived. He's Jordan Elliott, named after Jor-El, named his child John after Jonathan Kent, his father in Smallville. And just he's okay with being a normal man, powerless, having the life he wish he had, and what he feels he owes to Lois Lane. And it's a nice ending to the story. And then we go into the other Alan Moore stories, I believe. But that's the end here. I think this is probably the most fitting end to this era of Superman, and it is definitely the most emotionally resonant. I think this is really important. I think it's really good too. I really like it. Um, it's beautiful. I think at points in time, it's a little bit in bad taste or horrific, but those were all intentional by Alan Moore. I think, like for instance, the dead crypto. I think things like that are like, well, that's just the way it is. It's sort of meant to be like, okay, are these stories meant to be dark? What do we gain from making Mixie's Pit like a murderous maniac? And the answer is like maybe a lot, but you'd really have to address it. And that's the thing here is more addressed it. More addressed a story where Mixie's Pitlick went crazy. And it's a comment on so much more than that regarding the trends of the industry at the time and sort of the era of Superman that was leaving because I don't think Superman ever recovered from leaving the Silver Age. And I think when people think about Superman, they think about this Superman. This is the Superman everyone imagines in their head, even if we have modern depictions or we have complex versions or like what happens when Superman goes bad or what happens when Superman dies. This is the platonic ideal of Superman. And this version um, doesn't have a future. He's done, at least in terms of being a story for comic books ongoing. he may have relevance culturally still, and he probably has a lot of personal relevance. And that's also not to say that a modern Superman can't be heartfelt or et cetera, et cetera. But this is a goodbye to everything that Superman was, is, and could be. And sort of is anticipating an era where Superman is a character and not something more than that. Um, so I think this is a really important story to look at, and it's also a really good story to look at in regards to his history and mythology. So I hope if you never knew Superman before, you learned something here. I don't necessarily think this is the best Superman story. Um, we don't see Superman do so, like, I would say something like All Star Superman, or even For the Man Who Has Everything, as stories where you could really attach yourself to Superman. Superman is distant here in a stoic sort of way at times, even though we see him, even though we see him cry, etc., etc. There's a distance to him still here that is different from different other stories, where we can really appreciate the storytelling. I think we'll wrap it up here. I hope y'all liked this. I hope y'all enjoyed this. I think I will publish this. I might edit it down a little bit, but we'll see. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.